Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Get Down. This is Beats, Season 3, Episode 4. We are slowly but surely getting there. Right, what am I going to say? What I want to say before I start tonight's episode is I want to give a big shout out to my last two guests. So I want to shout out Russell for the introduction to the man that is known as Jeffrey Morgan, who I interviewed last week. If you listened to the show last week, you would have heard at the end of the episode that I went on air. I committed to join one of Jeffrey's programs, the Cut the Bullshit program. If you follow my socials, you would have seen that I've been active in that program. Now, I can pretty confidently say that this program is changing my life for the better. It's really amazing. This is not a plug from Jeff. Jeff hasn't asked me to do this. I'm not getting paid to do this. This is just for listeners out there. If no matter where you're at in life, if you're feeling down and you're feeling shit, if you're feeling up and you're fucking super confident, there's something in this program for everyone. There's accountability, there's structure, there's motivation, there's exercise, there's support from Jeff himself. There's a group that we've created, that we talk with some amazing people, and I've made some wonderful friends through that group that I'm sure I will carry through the rest of my life with. So Jeff, thank you, mate. If you're listening, I really appreciate it, and I cannot wait to one day meet you in person, and I look forward to re-signing up for the next program, which starts on July the 1st. So anyone listening, if he's doing another program, I don't believe you have to have done the Cut the Bullshit program first to get into this program, but regardless, Jeff is infectious and motivating and supportive, and he will help get you on the path you need to be on. All right, there's that over with. All right, so also I want to shout out to the homie Siders. Siders is going to run a prize pack this week. He's just dropped his album. Dope little release. He had a gig the other night and smashed it down there in Adelaide. He's going to give away, pretty sure it's a t-shirt, hat, and a CD combo. But you'll see that on the socials this week. I'll show you how to do that. Jump on there, get yourself some free shit, because everyone loves free shit. All right, so moving on to tonight's guest. Well, it's daytime, actually, and you should see the fucking view where I record from now. Oh, way! So today / tonight / whenever you're listening to it, this week's guest, right? You might have guessed it from the social medias, but yes, it's another bank robber. That's 3 in a row. I will get back to the hip hop. Trust me. I got some really cool guests lined up. But this week is another bank robber. All right. I'm loving these crime episodes. I'm a big crime buff myself, so it's been an honor to chat with the last few guests, and it's they're really doing fucking amazing things for society and giving back to society, you know? So I really respect that. So tonight's guest collectively has spent over 30 years in the prison system. So if you ever think about that, that's probably longer than some of you listeners that are even old, you know? Weren't even born when he started doing time. He is a famous bank robber, as I said, but most notoriously for people who are over, 23 years old, you might remember seeing him in the newspaper for escaping from Silverwater Prison by means of a helicopter back in 1999. I remember hearing about it. It was the year my daughter was born, and it was pretty brazen. It was pretty crazy. He went on to be Australia's most wanted man for a while, and we'll get into that. We'll talk with him about that shortly. But now he's not a criminal, right? He's also doing fantastic things, and he's also an outstanding writer, a brilliant author, and a true gentleman, right? I'm reading his book at the moment, and we'll talk about that also more too. But for now, enough of me talking. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Get Down, Mr. John Killick. So, Mr. John Killick, welcome to the Get Down. Thank you for your time, mate. Thanks for coming on. How are ya?
Well, I'm pretty good, and I appreciate the invitation to be able to get on and this it's not only a well-known podcast, it's starting to get well-known, but people have recommended to me that, look, John, try and get on this one. So
I'm on the up and up.
yeah, you've got a lot of comments out there, but,
yeah.
you know, it's a long race, and they're not all sayers, you know.
Yeah, I try to look at it as like coming together. I like the cross-pollination. And I've interviewed Brent, and I've sort of crossed over with a few other hosts, which I enjoy that. I enjoy bringing them together. So,
well, Russell's doing it now. Russell's doing one.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that'll be really interesting. I had a great interview with him, but the audio was pretty terrible. So I'm a bit disappointed with that. But what can you do?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure about the audio here. It's fine. I can hear you fine. But as you said, you know, when I talk to people on this, sometimes, you know, they do say it's going up and down. Particularly when I talk China, my son only hears half it. It's I don't know. It's a new phone. It's pretty good, but I have trouble on this computer getting it. You know, so
that's all right, mate. We'll work around it. So, what we'll do, I don't want to waste your time. I know you're a busy man. So rip into it. I've given a bit of an introduction about who you are, which you haven't heard, but you can hear if you choose to listen back to the episode. So what I was thinking, so we didn't waste any time, is would you mind talking a little bit about your childhood and where you grew up and what that was like for you, so I can get a bit of background context?
Right. First of all, I'd like to say I've got 4 books out, and if anybody's ever interested later, that they'll be able to read about all this in detail. The first book I wrote was Gambling for Love. That explains. Finished in 1973, and it's took a lot out of me writing that book because it was all. Oh, you've got that one, yeah. You got that. That was the second book, The Last Escape.
That's so good,
and that was my life story right up till now, just about, and it's pretty heavy. And I wrote a book on the inside after that.
Yeah, I've got to get that.
That's got about 30. I haven't got them there. I'll get you one, but I've run out. But it's got about 30 stories. Lots of different people that have been in jail or notorious, and you would have maybe know some, but some of the stories are quite outrageous. And there's a few funny stories, but it's not a bad book. And then the last one I've done, I think, is a very important book. It's about Russell Mansour and the voice of some.
Yeah, I've got that one too. I'm yet to read that one, but that's
it's a good story. It's a story about redemption, but there's some heavy stuff in it. It's some people find it hard at first to get through, but they all get through, and they really love the book. It's an important book because it reveals what had to be revealed, and you know the story, and I think so. I'm glad I did that book. I just thought because that's all there in the books about me, but to do it in short term, like with podcast, I can say that I never knew my real parents. I was adopted, and I was born in, you wouldn't believe it, in the middle of the Second World War. I was born in 1942, and it was just the week I was born, the Japs bombed. They bombed Darwin, and they bombed it a few times, and they dropped more tonnage on Darwin than they did Pearl Harbor. Not many people realise that. We really got attacked, hit by them, and a lot of people were killed, particularly US servicemen. And that was a hell of a time to be born because at that stage Singapore had fallen, and a lot of people thought that we would be taken over by the Japanese. And so I don't know for sure, but I got an idea that this is maybe why I was adopted out. Who knows, my mother, what problems she had, but I just know that I never ever knew my real parents, and I was adopted, and I was adopted into a dysfunctional family, really. My adopted father, ex-boxer, he was really a good fighter, and his problem was that he used to booze. He used to get into all the booze a hell of a lot, and particularly Friday, Saturday nights. in those days, you had 6 o'clock closing, and then they opened it till 10. And we lived in terror of him on the weekend because he was pretty violent, And so it was time. And my mother, I was a pretty good kid, but my mother died. I missed a lot of schooling. My mother died. She actually killed herself when I was 17, and I blame Dad. Right? It's a pretty sad when you look back. She's only 43, and she was really me, and I blame my father for it. So I left home that day, and when I left home, I was ill-equipped to be able to handle life, or I knew nothing about what to do. And so it was sort of me against the world, and hooked up with a few guys older than me, and I knew nothing about crime. They taught me how to shoplift, stuff like that. And 6 months later, we were in jail for a break and enter at Long Bay. I was 17.
Jesus.
Just like Russell.
17 in Long Bay.
Yeah, 1960. And in those days, jail was jail, believe me. Just imagine this. The visits, you're lucky if you got a visit every 2 weeks, and it was 20 minutes and the screws down right beside you, and you had wire mesh there. You couldn't touch each other. Letters, one a week. You had to, one page, you had to write it in ink, and they'd read it first. They didn't like it, they'd rip it up.
Jesus.
You had a cell, 3 guys in it. There were no toilets. You had a bucket for a toilet in the corner. Jesus. And you had a cup of water. There was no running water. The lights went off at 9. There were no radios, TVs. Very hard to get a book. You had no sheets, no pajamas, and just dirty old blankets. And the 3 of you were stuck in that. So, and I was there in January. It was very hot in 1960 when I was there, and believe me, jail was tough. No phone calls. So if you had a relationship, it was just about dead. And so that was jail. That's what I was introduced to, and I learned the hard way too, because a couple of young guys were getting raped, and I was lucky that I was with my mate, sort of an old guy, and he taught us the ropes. But and I got into a fight with a young German. We were playing chess, and he didn't like losing. He hit me over the head with his chessboard, and then we started fighting in the yard. And I gradually got on top of him, and the screws just walked away. They let you fight in those days.
Really?
So always one-on-one. Different now. You get in a fight, you're scouted, or stabbed. The whole system. And there were no drugs, no drugs in those days. So I was lucky. I came through that, and but I knew that if I was ever going to be, my sense of, the reasoning was twisted. Your code of ethics, you learn a new code of ethics, and you learn that crime's okay to get away with it. And if you give anybody up, like say, I see somebody breaking into a place and you give them up, then you're a dog and you're on protection. So, even if you did it outside and people found out about it, so the whole code of ethics was new, and you had to learn that. So I decided
very quickly, I'd imagine.
Very quickly, and so I decided, well, if I'm going to rob a bank, if I'm going to make money and be a criminal, then banks are where it is. And bank robberies in those days, there weren't a lot in Australia. If you check it out, there was Simmons in there in Rose Bay, and then Darcy Dugan and his mate bank, but it went wrong, and a bank manager got shot. Didn't die, but they got life over that. So the only bank robbers I knew in Australia, they were Darcy Dugan, who was doing life, and Kevin Simmons was doing life. So when you think about it, it wasn't a good...
Not good incentive.
And the thing why I think stopped guys robbing banks is all the tellers used to go to training, pistol training. They had guns in those days.
Yeah, I read it in your book. I was amazed by that.
Yeah. Well, I had an argument on radio. Somebody rang up and said, I'm a bank teller, we've never had guns. I said, maybe you were just a baby when chased by bank, firing shots at me. Said they were very real because they left the holes in the car. So you're going to tell me that real guns? Oh, well, what are they doing about it? Well, no, you know nothing about it. You shouldn't be on the radio talking about it, should you? They want to bring you undone. See, they're waiting for you. They listen to you for an hour, And everything you say is all right until they find one little thing and they're on the radio. No, he doesn't know what he's talking about, you know.
Yeah.
And I had a QC full of himself, $8,000 a day man, ring up on, I was on ABC radio at night down in Melbourne, and he rang up and said, I'm here to tell you, Mr. Killick, that all his ill-gotten gains from his writing will be taken by the state because it's proceeds from crime. And I would advise him to read the legislation. And I said, well, I'd advise you, Mr. QC, now he's Mr. Senior Counsel, to read that legislation properly because I wouldn't have written the books if what you say is true. And I said, there are two provisions for people like me. And one is that if you can prove it's for rehabilitation purposes, and the second one is if it's a contributional literature. And I said, I think my books about true crime are a contributional literature. I think they sit well on the mantle of true crime. And when I'm gone, people have an accurate idea what it was rather than have to read chopper words.
Yeah.
And he dropped.
You read my mind.
He dropped off. But see, they get up there and they want to be undone, but they don't even know what they're talking about. They think they know and they don't. There's really nice people that support you, but you always get those that want to bring you down. They just don't want to see guys like me and Russell and Bernie Matthews. We all got out there, and another one down in Melbourne, Ray Mooney's been writing for years and doing good stuff. And they don't like it. They don't like it. They think that we should not have a voice, and it's a pity because and they pull this from crime at me, and I say to them, look, you go down to Hungry Jack's, pull out the youngest kid at Hungry Jack's, he's making more money than I am, and other than him. But there's no money in writing in Australia unless you really are a best-selling author, like Fitzsimons or somebody like that. But most writers I know, and good, legitimate writers, delivery boys, they do Uber work, drive taxis, to supplement their income.
Yeah. It's a funny thing that it's the same with music in Australia. Unless you're the top tier, like there's some great talented musicians out there, but it's just very hard to crack.
Overall, you're right, and that's why you see these shows they put on, and it quite often makes a few of them, and they've found a few really good singers through those those competitions they have.
So, just while we're on the books, you're very well written. Like it's very easy. It's a real page turner, and it's very very Australian, very well written. Where did you learn to write? Have you always had it in you, or did you learn somewhere?
I was always a storyteller. When I was a kid, this is for real. The kids used to come and sing out, "Can John come out and tell us a story?" Yeah. And I'd come out. I'd have 12, 14 kids. This was down in Roselle. They lined up, and I'd be telling them all these stories, making them up as I go along, and they just loved these stories. Yeah. And I was always doing the heroes and cops and robbers and cowboys and I was always a hero, so it didn't work out. Didn't work. The thing is that I thought I could write, right? And I was good at composition at school. It's about the only thing I was any good at because I missed a lot of school. But I was good at English and maths. Those are the two things I was good at. But everything else, I was hopeless. And when I came to, I was down in Melbourne, and I tried to escape down there. It was a pretty heavy escape, and I went into H Division. It's a pretty notorious place. I'll talk about it later if you like. But I applied to do short story course, and they kept knocking me back, and I kept writing, and I drove them nuts. I wrote to the Premier about it eventually and said, look, I'm in this place. Why not? A lot of people can't read and write. And I got a letter back, not from him, from Secretary, saying that would be a good thing if I was able to do this course.
All right.
So what happened is I did a short story course, and the guy that was my tutor, a guy called Ian Moody, he was a well-known Australian poet, but he's one of the guys. He had to drive taxis to make a living. He was also a commo, which didn't help him, communist, and but he was a talent, and he was a hard taskmate. So I said, "You watch this." So I wrote this story I had for a while. I wrote this story and I sent it off, and I said, this will knock him dead, you know. He will really love this. He's going to try and get this published for me. And I waited, and I got it back. I got a C minus.
Oh,
it had red marks. It, you know, virtually without saying it, you don't know what you're doing, you know, as far as a writer's concerned. And gradually he taught me, you know, this rule, that rule, and I still use his principles today. And
so you locked up while he's doing this? You locked up while he's mentoring you?
Oh, yeah. I was down in Hastings.
Yeah.
Bashed people with suicide around me, and it was a terrible place, Hastings. And I'll tell you about it later.
Yeah.
And so what happened is, you know, I started getting A pluses, and when I got out, he recommended me for a scholarship, and I got a $750 scholarship because at the time, Gough Whitlam was in charge, and he wanted to help everyone, and my mate.
So I'm just going to jump in there, John. Is it cut out? Yeah. So it's a $750 grant you received.
Yeah. From the Gough Whitlam had just got in, and what my mate was an Aboriginal guy. Got one. He said, John, Gough's handing out scholarships like candy. Just apply for one, he'll give you one. Apply for one, and Moody recommended me, and I got a $750. I just got out of jail. They gave me $750. That was pretty good in those days. I mean, you know, you get a $750. And I had a heap of stories published in Man magazine. I've still got some, and actually I'm doing short stories. And some of those stories are 50 years old. They were written down, and they're pretty good. Wow. Pretty good. Some of the later stories aren't as good, but I'm going to put them in the book anyway. But I'm going to do a book of short stories. And I'm just so thankful to him, to Ian Moody, who taught me how to write. And I say to guys, people message me all the time, John, I've got my life story. Yours is great, but mine's even better. But I just need it. I've done so much, John. I need to put it all in book form. Can you help me? And I always say, because, you know, you're going to be there years to it. And you can tell by the way it's written. And I said, look, what you've got to do first, do a short story course through TAFE and then come back to me. Yeah. Well, they never do it. All right, but they never do it. They never do it. They want to jump straight in and write that book straight away. Yeah. You know, and that book's never going to unless they learn how to write it. You know.
Yeah, it's funny. People, you know, when you do, if you're in film or books, everyone's like, oh, I've got an idea. I got an idea. It's like, how much do you want it? Go and do it.
That's right. Yeah, you got to do it so you can have an idea. You know, I've met so many people that could have been Elvis Presley, but they just didn't make it. You know what I mean? And yeah, I wanted to be a singer myself when I was young. We all had to go. I didn't win a talent quest. I finished second in a talent quest, and got into a fight. Got into a fight.
Yeah. I think that happened with Graham Henry too, didn't it? He was a good singer, and he went into a contest and got it blue.
Yeah, he came to my launch. He'd had a couple of drinks, and I tried to get him up to sing, but he found a reason not to do it. You know, and fair and better, I bet he was a good singer. Yeah, bet he was a good singer. Yeah.
That's crazy.
You going to get him on the podcast?
Yeah, I've been talking to him about it, but there's a few things getting in the way right now. Right. So I think we've jumped ahead to Pentridge. You were in jails before Pentridge, weren't you?
Yeah. Like I said, I went to Long Bay when I was 17, and you know, when I got a sentence later for that,
and what was that for?
They sent me to Bathurst, and
that was for
breaking out.
Yeah.
I went to Bathurst and tried to escape from the courthouse, and four of us were going to go, me and three mates, but we were all going to go, split in four different directions. You know, those are the times. It was easy going. You're in the country cops didn't think you're going to escape because their attitude was, where's he going to go? And you know, not many people try to escape the country, and so the four of us were going to have a go, and I said, all we've got to do is push the cops out of the way. There's two of us, unhandcuffed, coming out of court, four of us, and they're escorting us across from the courthouse into the cells. And so, yeah, we're going to go. We're split in four different directions. I said that, you know, the worst is going to happen they'll catch two of us. So we come out, and two cops. One's a big fat detective, and the other's an old sergeant. The old sergeant in front of me, I shoved him in the back. He stumbled forward, that put him out. He was out of the game. But then I shot through. Well, the other four didn't go. They said, "Good work, Johnny." Bloody weak buggers.
And stayed in the van.
And next thing I bang, bang. This fat cop, he knew he couldn't catch a runaway from the kindergarten, so he's bloody tried to shoot me. Jesus. The only chance he had. But he's missed, and so I had a jumper on, ripped the jumper off, so I'd look a bit different, and I thought they're going to be everywhere, these cops, because it's not four, it's not all for four, it's all for one. So there was a chook point. I saw this chook point about 4 streets down, and I went and crept into the chook pen. But they made a little bit of a noise. Mm. An old lady saw it, and she probably thought I was in there to pinch the chooks. So when she saw the cops around, the cops never would have thought of coming and looking at the chook pen, but she called them over. I seen them coming. I tried to jump over a fence, ripped my bloody finger wide open, still got a big scar. And an old cop come put a gun to my head, and he was shaking like that. He was shaking. I said, don't move, don't move. Oh, shit, I knew. I try and move. He's going to pull that trigger,
Jesus Christ. And you're 17, man.
I was 18 then, by then. I was 18.
That's still very young to have that shit happening, man.
And they're taking me back to the police station, and because Fatso was really upset, the cop who fired. And I said, I was just a bit of a smart. I said, look, you shouldn't have shot. I said, you could have bloody shot me. And he went, whack. I went down and kicked me in the guts. And I was crawling away, and I said, quick, get me to the chemist, get me to a doctor's, my bloody fingers, I need stitches and that. He's whacked me again. I mean, it showed they just didn't have any, they had that superior, I want to, and I came up against that attitude all the time. I went to jail. They've still got it today. We can do what we want. We're more officers. You're dirty like crims, and that's the attitude. And that's been the attitude in Australia ever since 1788. When we first got over here, and they hanged a guy the first week, 20-year-old guy, because he stole a shirt and a little bit of food, and they hanged him to set an example. Now, what sort of person have you got to be to do that? And we some of the things we did to our convicts, Australia's famous for it. It's just, and what we did, and that was in the 1700s, 1800s, early. They executed so many. I was at Penrith when they hanged the last man in Australia. I was there. It's still going on.
Yeah. Ryan, yeah.
Yeah, well, so what happened is that, I got out of there. I went to Goldman because it was first time as jail because they said you're an escapee, so you've got to be a maximum security. I went there, and you wouldn't believe it. Here I am, 18, and so many of the criminals there are the most notorious crims in Australia because what happened, a lot of them were murderers. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time those are called Goldman Training Centre, not like now, we're a punishment centre. Now, the people that were there, I used to hear about their case on a radio show called Police Files every week. Yep. And I knew I knew the story of the Beagle bomber and bloody Lenny Lawson, the Kingsgrove slasher. There was just so many that I heard about. And there I was with these people. They were just normal people you wouldn't think. And it's because they were murderers, mostly first-timers. So that's why they're at the jail. It was first time at jail. And,
right.
And all of those people. And I've written about it in the books. It's quite fascinating,
Yeah.
Anyway, eventually in 65, no, not 65, but in 62, actually, when I got out of there, I met a girl, American girl, and I was really in love with her. She was in love with me, and but she was going to America, and parents were going to America. Father was American.
Is this Kathy?
Kathy, yeah. I'm talking to her later today, actually. That's her there.
Oh, that's one of my questions. One of my questions is, is she aware of the books, and do you still have contact?
Yeah, actually, I'm talking to her today. She's old, but she's not as old as me. And It's really incredible that we're talking about it at 62, 1962, I met her, and we're just friends. I mean, she's married, she's divorced, she's been divorced 20 years, married a lawyer, and got 3 grown-up children. They're good people. I'm friends with them. And but of all the people, all the girls I could have met, the one I met's going to America. So I couldn't handle that. I tried to get over there, and they knocked me back because I had a minor criminal record. And so what I did was decided that I'd buy false passports and get over there illegally. And false passport was £400. That's a lot of money in those days. That's $1 now, but that £400 gets you half a house, you know.
Jesus.
And yeah, and that's what they wanted for. Oh no, I wouldn't get you half a house, but get you about a bloody 15% of a house. Yeah, you get 20 for £400 for 4,000. You'd get a house. Jesus. in some areas. So well, it was a tenth for a bloody house. And that's what I wanted just for the false passport. Then the fare, you had to pay the fare, this, that, visas. And so I decided, that's when I decided I would. I'd always thought about I would rob a bank. And the first bank I robbed was January 1966. And I remember I bought a rifle. In those days you could buy a rifle. And it had a Forley, you wouldn't believe they sold it to me, it had a Forley trigger. And I didn't know that, and single shot. And I met this young guy. I wanted to have someone. I met this young guy. He was playing pinballs in this place called Playland. It was in Pitt Street, not there now. And just approached him and see he was a bit of a knockabout and said, "Hey, you look like you're down your luck. You want to come and have a drink and got a proposition for you?" He said, "You're not a poof, are you?" I said, "No." He had dirty teeth and all that. If I'd have been a poof, I wouldn't have been worried about him anyway. But I said, "Come on, let's get." I guess that's where they used to go to pick up the boys and stuff really? Like that. No, so, you know, wasn't legal then, so they used to go there in public toilets and all that. And I had a bad attitude towards gays. Something changed my attitude totally when I was down in Penrith. I'll tell you about it. I wrote about it in with the Love, but at that stage, I'd had a couple come on to me in toilets and stuff like that, and you know, it really upset me because my father was anti-gay, and he'd turned me against it. So when that sort of stuff happened, I was really anti-gay at that stage. Not later on, I changed my mind about it. But the thing is, so I said to him, "Look, I'm going to rob a bank. I'm not going to muck around. I'm going to rob a bank." Yeah. And I said, "Are you interested?" He said, "I've always wanted to rob a bank." Yeah. Yeah. This guy would have been flat out robbing a candy store on his own, you know? So I said, "Look, all you've got to do," I said, "I'm going to run into the bank." I said, "You go in ahead of me as a customer and ask for the manager because he can open the safe." Yeah. I said, and got a gun. "Oh, you've got a gun?" I said, "You know what?" I said, "We'll take the gun off you." He said, "Oh, you sure you can?" I said, "Don't worry." I said, "I've done this before." I never done it anyway. So we're driving along, and it was out at bloody County Heights. So we're going from the city to County Heights, and I stole a car at Strathville, an old FJ. It was pretty good in those days. You just bloody slipped a bit of silver paper on the ignition and you just kick it over. And that's all you have to do. And a kid taught me that, a kid. So we're driving along, and we're nearly there, and he said, "I'm going to have a scotch. I'm going to have a scotch." And I said, "No, look." He said, "I'm going to have a scotch." So I knew he wouldn't do it without having a scotch. So he had a scotch. And I thought he's trying to run away, this guy. So I had a clown's mask. I put the clown's mask on. And there was a little alcove just outside the bank. And I said, "I'll wait in there. You go in." I said, "I'll give you 20 seconds. And then I'm going to put this one in." He said, "Okay." So he went in. Now I saw the manager. The manager came out. And then I put the thing in. And I run in. And said, this is a hold-up. Well, as soon as I did, the rifle, lucky it was pointing down, went off. Shit. Went into the floor. So I had an empty rifle. You know, my left knee was shaking that bad. I think that's why I went off. My left knee was shaking. I was just really scared. And And I pretended to reload the rifle, just went like that, just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Pointed it at the manager, who was a trained shooter, and said, "Give me your gun or you're dead." And he handed me the gun. I said, handle first. And he handed me the gun. So I dropped the rifle. Well, later on, the cops were absolutely screaming. They said he could have shot you, and instead of that, he's giving you a gun. You know what I mean? It's because in a situation like that, nobody's thinking clearly.
No.
It's come out of the blue, and it's just all of a sudden this incredible things happen. Especially in those days, it didn't happen very often. And if he'd have been cool, he would have seen that rifle was a single shot, and that I didn't reload it, But he wasn't going to take that risk, not really knowing. And he's handed me the piss, a big mistake. And so we got out of there.
How much did you get away with?
Well, they got smart. They said £8,000. You see the reports today in the Herald. But it wasn't. It was only, I think it was a couple of thousand. But I think they did that deliberately to cause dissension between me and the guy, Yeah. Either that or they ripped that money off and blamed us, which you see in the movies happen sometimes. But later, remember when I was charged later, I was charged for the right amount. So, I split the money up very quickly and split with him. Never seen him again. Never ever saw him again.
Yeah, right.
They never caught him. I don't even know who he was. And but he'd remember that. If he was still alive, he'd remember that. If he ever reads one of these books, he'd probably say to his wife, that was me. She'd say, yeah. Yeah. But then, because I left him with a car, and I walked up to the highway, and I was going to get a taxi, and I seen a cop car going past, and there was this lady doing some gardening. She was a top sword, one of the best swords you'll ever see, and she had these tight boots on. I went over, look, could I use your phone? And sweat was pouring off me. I had a suit on. It was bulging. I had money in there and gun in there. And she looked at me and said, yeah, come in. So I get in there, and she said, what do you, I said, I need a taxi. She said, I'll ring it. She rang the taxi for me. She said, I'll ring the taxi for it. And she said, what happened? I said, my car broke down about a mile away. I sort of been jogging while I was going to go down. And I said, I decided it's just too far to get to the station, and I'm going to get a taxi. And I could see she's dying to ask, what's all this stuff? And I've got money stuffed in there, and I got a gun. Anyway, she gave me a cup of tea, and only half finished, and the taxi came. There's beer been outside. She said, and as we went out there, I gave her 10 shillings. I said, there. She said, what's that for? I said, just for doing what you did. And she said, you didn't have to. She said, if you're around again, she said, drop in and have a cup of tea again. I said, yeah, I'll do that.
Not bad.
She wouldn't have to wait 7 years, but that's the way to go.
And so what's 10 shillings equivalent to today?
10 shillings? That $10 was $1.
Okay.
So, but the average wage then was about £24. This was the week before they turned over to 2 weeks before they turned in decimal currency. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Yeah. So that was the average wage then was probably about £25. So it was about a 50th of your average wage, which now would be like giving you what, $15 or something,
Yeah. So
as we walked out, this cop car come past. It had been cruising. And it stopped and it looked at us. And, I was sort of side-eyeing a little bit, and I'm joking with it, sort of getting a laugh, because I said, if they you're looking for a bank robbery, you wouldn't be here chatting up this girl in shorts and that. And she started with me, and that's it, they drove on. So how lucky was that? And I booked into a boarding house, and then I was a pretty heavy gambler at that stage. That's what I was doing, gambling. And I remember, I had a couple of big bets, just got beat. I was putting $800. I remember the biggest bet, $800 on the nose horse. $800 in 1966 on the nose on the horse. So I had to rob a bank again on and it was the 15th of February. I remember it was the day after my birthday. My birthday was on, it was a Sunday. So Valentine's Day was a Monday. It was 1966. And it was the day that they changed over currency.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I decided there's going to be a lot of money there. So I picked out a bank in Cabramatta to do it. And I went there, and you wouldn't believe it. Knocked an old FJ, parked it just across the street from the bank, where the bank was, and it was outside and near another bank. Now, an old lady came over as I was walking across, going to do the bank. She walked over and said, "Excuse me." I said, "Yeah." She said, "You've left your motor running." I said, "Oh, yes." She said, "Oh, don't do that." She said, "There's thieves around here." It happened, you know. And I saw her. And she said, "Yeah, you turn that motor off." I said, so she came out, and I went there, and she's looking at me. You know, I've got no keys, so I'm looking at her. I'm trying to pull, I had to pull the boat in the silver pipe out of ignition. I'm thinking, I won't be able to get it fast. And meantime, while that's going on, the bank across that I wasn't going to do, there was a teller there watching me. And he was suspicious. And he told the cops later, he had a gun. He said, "If that guy had run here, I would have shot him." So, you know, it sort of shows how fate can be in your favour. You might have some bad luck, but I would have got shot if I'd done that thing. So anyway, I thanked the old lady. I said, "Look, it's Valentine's Day. If I could have get you some roses." So she said, "You're a lovely, lovely young man." I said, "Well, thank you, ma'am." And then I went over, robbed the bank. Well, when I went in, they apologised. They didn't have a lot of money left, and yeah. But I was lucky. A butcher had emptied all his takings onto the table, and I said, "I'll take that." He had two bank books, Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse. I pushed them aside. I knew they were his kids. And I grabbed his money. I said, "I'm taking that." He said, "I said, look," I said, you're covered. This is the bank's problem. It's not yours. Yeah. You won't lose a cent. I'm taking the money." And he looked at me, and I thought he was going to jump me, but he didn't. Because I wasn't robbing him. I knew he'd get his money back, you know. And I robbed the bank, not him. So I got about 3,500, and I expected to get 20. So but when I ran out, they came after me. The manager came after me, and the butcher. They both came out after me. And I jumped in. I seen them running up the street, and they commandeered a car. So they came after me, but I managed to lose them. I went down a dead-end street, and which I'd planned, and got out and ran across a paddock and caught a train. So I got away because I was pretty fit in those days. But they were out to shoot me too. And that's the trouble. You know, bank robbers in those days knew that they could get chased by people who were trained shooters, just like cops. They were trained.
They knew the risk.
So there wasn't a lot going. Once they stopped carrying guns and people got on drugs and needed more money, it became an epidemic. There was just so many bank robberies that there was 10 a week, 10 banks going off a week. You know, in the late 70s and particularly in the 80s. You know, it's just.
I do hear a lot of. I just want to go back to what you said about not justifying it, but I do hear a lot of bank robbers say the money was insured. I wasn't hurting anyone. It was the banks and the insurance companies. Do you feel like that kind of justified your crime? I mean, I know, and we'll talk later about the effects of your victims and what type of flow-on effect that has. But did you feel justified as opposed to robbing someone's house or robbing someone on the street?
Well, that used to be my attitude because the banks foreclosed on our house and it brought us down to Dad could only get credit through custom credit, which was owned by the bank that was charging 3 times the normal. And I hated banks. And that was my attitude. That is me. It's my attitude when Mum died was me against the world, but particularly me against the bank. And I will say this, I'll explain it in the last escape, and it's my attitude's been for probably the last 10 years or more, and I've worked with Sykes on this, probably the last 15 years, and I accept and I tell young guys this, and I get it across in books and get it across on interviews, and it's because I know it's true, that when someone walks into a bank or any of those financial institutions and they're masked up and they've got a weapon and they're talking loudly and demanding things, then it's not you against the bank, because the bank doesn't really exist. You know, it exists, but it's being run by people, and it's you against the customers and the tellers. And you know, maybe 9 out of those every 10 will be okay. They'll recover from that and get on with life. But I reckon probably on average, maybe 1 in 10 that doesn't, and it may ruin their life. It could ruin their marriage. They could be traumatised, and there's a lot of repercussions. You're doing mental damage to these people, and I accept that because I put Gloria, who's now 81, I put her in a bank, and I know how she'd be if someone masked up on him, waving a weapon and threatening. She wouldn't be able to handle it.
Yeah.
And so I accept that. And I never could understand when I was younger why bank robbers got such big sentences. And I think it's partly because I think these financial institutions put pressure on governments to make sure sentences are handed out big. I think there's a bit of that. But there's also the fact that, you know, you're traumatising people without even realising. And most of them don't realise. But some couldn't give a stuff too. There's some out there who couldn't give a stuff. But a lot of the guys I've spoken to said, yeah, John, I didn't realise that. And they've taken the same approach. Mm. You needed someone. I needed a mentor when I was young to teach me these things because I just didn't know any of that. I didn't know anything about stuff like that. I'd been traumatised myself without even realising.
Yeah, I've been convicted of a crime, and part of my sentence was victim awareness courses, which they run now, and it was pretty. I have to admit, it was pretty eye opening to see how far that ripple effect goes.
That's right. Yeah, it can, but some people quite capable of just saying, "Oh, I was in a bank that only got robbed." Jeez. Yeah. Someone else on my own. But I mean, but some people, their whole life goes downhill from there. And you know, I really am remorseful about that. I really am. And I've had people doing interviews on radio say, you know, my sister was in a bank and robbed. What do you got to say about that? And there's not much I can say about it. I say, look, I feel sorry for her and I understand what she went through. You say, yeah, but what are you going to do about it? You were writing books and you were making a lot of money. And I said, well, I'm not making a lot of money and I am remorseful about it. And what I'm doing now, I do try and help with. I've been trying, you know, for quite a while, counsel kids and stuff like that, but get the message across in the books. But the money that I make from books, and most people don't know this, I send overseas helping these families, particularly some of these kids that are backward. And I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years, and I've got all the proof. I showed it in court about 3 years ago. I had to go to court, and I showed the documentation. And the judge said, look, my whole opinion of you has changed. My form of opinion of you has changed. Because, you know, I don't get up broadcasters telling everybody about it, but that's the truth. And I think I'm entitled to be able to say that because there's got to be, it's easy to say you're remorseful, but there's got to be some proof of remorse too. And I really do accept because I'm able to probably couldn't do it when I was younger. I'm able to put myself now in other people's shoes. And that's what bugs me about these people who run the system. Quite often they don't seem capable of being able to put themselves, and as you get older, you should be able to do it, put yourself in another person's shoes. And, you know, there's even today, I think, more so lately, there's a lack of empathy, the way it's being run. And that lack of empathy, I think some of the people at the top, if you've got no empathy, then it puts you in the sociopath class. It really does. And they should rule. You've got to be able to have empathy. And if I'd have had the understanding I've got now, I never would have robbed banks. And I really mean that. I never would have done it.
That's interesting. That's an interesting thing to, you know, what they say, hindsight's 20/20, you know. But
it's easy to get back and say it, but what are you got to be able to do? You've got to be able to get out and do some things. You've got to do some things and give something back. And now I'm doing that. Russell's doing that.
Yeah.
You know, I know a lot that are doing it, but there are some people that won't accept it. You've got some people that belong to victims groups, they just won't accept that you did this 30 years ago. And excuse me, 23 years ago since I escaped, you know.
I'm just going to tell the listeners that every time I speak, every time I interrupt John with a yes, yes, that's where the delay is coming in. So from here on in through the interview, I will back off and let John talk, and I'll only speak when there's a question being asked.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry.
Did you hear that, John? So every time I interrupt with a that's it's cutting you off. So I'll just back off and be a little bit quiet until I've got a question, mate.
Okay. So, yeah, I robbed those two banks, and then I felt it was too hot in Sydney. They were looking for me everywhere in Sydney, and I knew. A few people I rang said, John, the police have been here, et cetera, et cetera. They even went over to Kathy in America and saw her father, Interpol. Interpol contacted him, and they tried to get the father to set a trap for me, and he wouldn't do it. He said, no. He said, if you want to catch him, you catch him. But they were in a bit of shock about what had happened. But they knew my background. They didn't expect me to rob banks. Anyway, so I went to Melbourne, and I dyed my hair, and I was still going to some of the illegal casinos. And I remember one guy there kept asking me for money, this Sparrow, and he was one of the ones that was with me during the robbery and that we did at Western Stores. I didn't mention it. We're just in jail for breaking out, but it was called the Western Stores. And I've got to mention this. When we got caught at Lithgow, we ran out of petrol, and you wouldn't believe it, and we ran out of petrol at Lithgow. We got arrested. It was the middle of the night, about 3 a.m. in the morning. They took us down, and we'd robbed this place. We had about £20,000. It came out a lot of money. It was £20,000 worth of goods and some of the jewellery. And they asked us to strip off, and we all stripped off. And it was freezing cold. I just wanted to strip off, get it over, and get like clothes back on, and get the store. You imagine Lithgow just how cold it was, and this was in July, 1960. So what happened is that we all stripped off, and he stood there with his socks on. And this old sergeant said, listen, mate, we're used to smelly food around here. He said, just take socks off. And he said, no, it's cold. He said, the floor was very cold. He said, take your bloody socks off. He took his socks off, 5 diamond rings fell out on the floor. You know. That's the character of this guy who I ran into, in Melbourne at the casino. And he kept, and I don't know if he knew I was on the run, but I certainly looked different. And he used to say, John, I used to work to a system on this baccarat, win a certain amount and walk out. And I was working, the system was working. And of course, I had the money from banks, so I had a bit of money. And he used to bite me, say, John, can you give us 50? You know, I just got sick of it, you know. So I started going to a different place, Brewster's. He was an old crook who used to run this two-up game. And anyway, sure enough, Sparrow turns up there. They call him the Sparrow. And he said, John, I forget how much it was. It might have been $100. It might have been $200. I got no idea it was $200. Just can't remember exactly what it was. He said, I needed that. They caught me with housebreaking evidence. I'm on bail. And if I don't pay them the $200, I'm going to jail. Can you give it to me? And I said, well, I just got sick of it. And I wanted to hook him in a bit so he wouldn't be a threat to me. I said, look, I'm going to rob a bank. I said, how about you drive the car? You know? And he went white. I should have just forgot about that. This guy was a pickpocket, you know, a pickpocket and a bloody petty thief. And here he is, all of a sudden we're putting him up and driving away in the car. He probably had vision as bank tellers running out and shooting at us, which funny enough, did happen, you know. So, and happened because I didn't have a driver. So he said, yeah, look, I'll do it. Yeah, okay, all right. And so that was it. He was supposed to turn up and meet me outside. I was learning to dance. I was doing this at Fred Astaire's dance studio. I was learning to do all these fancy dances because Kathy, I thought I was still going to get to America, and she still she loved all these dances. So I had an appointment, and but it's funny how you anyway before that, that's where I was supposed to meet him. He didn't turn up. What happened here?
I got you. There. Sorry, mate. Yep.
And so I was supposed to meet him outside this dancing school. That's where I was supposed to meet him. And he didn't turn up. So I just went ahead and did the bank myself. I stole a car and did the bank. And it went wrong from the start because I always used to work on a getaway route. And I had planned, I robbed the bank. I was always in 60 seconds in the bank. That was it. I'd be out. And I had to run across the street, get in the car, drive down. There was a dead end, and get out from there and run across this huge paddock. And there was a railway station. It was at Kensington. And I timed it the night before, or a couple of nights before, actually, and I knew exactly how long it would take me to get there as a train coming.
So you did a dry run.
Timing.
You did a dry run of it?
Yeah. And so when I robbed the bank, they were very, aggressive. You could see this manager, he looked like he was nearly going to attack me, and I made him rip the phone out of the wall, and he didn't want to do it. He's pretending to. I just ripped it. So I was taking longer than I should have, and he finally ripped the phone, and then I turned and ran out. Well, they come out after me with guns, both of them, and I got to the car, and as I got to the car, they fired the shots. As soon as they fired the shots, they hit the boot, So I opened the door and went like that, pretending to fire back at them, and they dived behind the thing. And then I didn't fire, and I jumped back in the car. And as I started the engine, the truck driver, there was a truck driver there, pulled out, blocked me off. So I went up around the footpath, and he tried to get me, just missed getting me, and I was off. Well, he's come after me, the truck driver, and I looked back, and I could see in the rear vision that the bank tellers are running too. So I thought,
like a movie, mate. Sounds like a movie.
You just wouldn't believe these things could happen, This all because I didn't have a driver, see? Otherwise it could have been right outside the bank. So, I'm thinking to myself, I've got to get this train. If I don't get this train, I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere. And, there'd be cops everywhere. So it's essential I get the train. And this is where ego comes in. I would have made that train. I stopped at the dead end. The truck driver pulled up behind me. But I was that pissed off with this truck driver because he nearly got me killed because they could have shot me the way it went. And I jumped out and ran up towards him. Well, he saw me coming. He was pretty smart. He wound up the window. I don't know what that's going to do. So I tapped on the window. I said, it's no good wanting the window. I said, you've got me now. What do you want to do? And he's going like he was shaking, I said, you've got me. What do you want to do? And he's just sitting there. He couldn't talk. And I just laughed. I said, what can you do? So I turned and ran. Well, I run across the paddock. I'm a pretty good runner. I'm running as fast as I can. And then down Melbourne, they closed the barriers just before you get in the train. There's this little guy, and he was the most pompous guy you'll ever meet. He's there, and he's watching me. And I'm about 15 metres away, and he closed the gate. Well, I got there, and the train's just come in. I said, quick, I've got to get that train. He said, you missed it, fella. I said, hang on a minute. I said, let me in there. I've got to get the train. You've got to get the next train, fella. He said, And I looked around. I seen up the truck driver and the two tellers about 100 metres away looking at me. So he walked away. The train went off and I went in there. Well, they thought I'd got the train. Luckily, they thought I'd got the train. So I jumped. I knew I couldn't wait for the next train. So I jumped down on the track, and there was this huge, bloody wire fence. And I thought, if I can get over that, I can get away here. It went down into the back of the factory. And they're all out there in their cars and walking around having lunch. So I somehow climbed over. I don't know how I got over. I got over this huge fence, jumped down, and went over to these two guys. They were sitting in the front of the car eating sandwiches. And I just got in the back of the car. showed him a gun and said, look, fellas, I'm pretty desperate. I've got to get into town. And the old bloke turned around and looked at me and said, I can do that for you. I said, good, thank you. And the young bloke looked at me. Yeah, there was a bloody security guard. They waved him. We went through. There's sirens everywhere by now. And one of them said, geez, they're looking for somebody. And I said, yeah, bloody, they're always looking for somebody. You know? We all bloody knew they were looking for me. And so I started talking to them. And they were Collingwood supporters, these two guys. And Collingwood was a rough area, you know, and right throughout history. It's been always had a lot of crims and sort of helped the underdog sort of thing. And they were Collingwood supporters. And so we're getting close to the city, and I said, look, just drop me off here. And I handed him a bundle of notes. It was, you know, a sizable amount of money. And the driver said, that's for the petrol. He said, it wouldn't come that much. I said, look, put it on the Maggies to win a premiership. He said, oh, bloody do that. I said, good on you. I said, see you. Now, they didn't bloody go to the cops. They didn't go to the cops. Nice. And we went. And Collingwood went on. I don't know if they put it on the Maggies. Collingwood got to the grand final, and they got beat by a point by St. Cool on the siren. Jeez. They kicked the bloody goal. They lost the grand final by a point.
Jesus.
Anyway, so I got home. I had about 3,500. So I thought, oh, well, you know, that was worth. That was a lot of money in those days. And I was watched the news, and they had the truck driver on there, and he come on and he said, you know, suddenly he had a different story. He said he got out of the car. He said, I got out. I said, come here, you bastard. And he ran away, ran across the bloody paddock. You know, he said, I couldn't tell you. He was too fast. He said he went, and he said, then the tellers came. He said, they said, what would you have done if you'd got him? You had a gun. He said, I'd have taken that bloody gun. You know what I would have done with that gun, he said. You know, so they had him as a hero soon. So that was good. That was good because when I got caught, I was being escorted to the committal where they give an evidence. And I saw him there, sitting there. Now, he was going to give evidence against me saying I'd terrorised him and all this. And I said, as we walked past, I said, don't forget the Channel 9 interview where you chased me. I said, you're going to take the gun off me? I said, don't forget to tell them that. Well, yeah, that stuff, they couldn't use him after that. They couldn't use him, you know, because he can't get up and say what really happened because he's already given a version on television. So, you know, that helped me by him getting burnt a big mouth. But so there's no doubt Sparrow had done it all with cops. And I was going to Perth. I knew it was pretty hot. I was going to Perth, but I just wanted to do. I'd already paid for these dancing lessons. I just wanted to do just one more because we were learning the tango, and I hadn't quite perfected the tango. And I'm going to spend an hour doing the tango, and so I'm driving there, and we come into Flinders Street. I'm in Flinders Street, and a car pulled up alongside me, and there's absolutely no doubt on it. There's four dudes, four of them. And I looked across at them and I said, yeah, you just know they're cops. I got to get out of here. So I couldn't find a parking spot. I was trying to find a parking spot. So I was just about to go. So I started to run late. And this little Volkswagen pulled out of the parking spot. And I said, stuff it, you know. So I went in, I got in, and I ran to the dancing school. And I was probably about 5 minutes late. And I ran down the stairs, and there was a girl there I got on really well. And I said, hi, I'm a bit late. And she was white, you know. And she couldn't talk. And I knew. And then next thing, I've been grabbed from behind. And all the dancers, there were a few dancers, they were all cops. They were waiting for me.
Oh, what?
And so, that was the end of the tango and everything else. So they no real dirty. They said, you're bloody late. I said, yeah. Well, they said, we grabbed the wrong bloke. They said, the bloke come in on time, and they said, we thought it was you, and we grabbed him, and now he's going to sue us. I said, well, that's your bloody problem, isn't it? But yeah, so they questioned me and about a lot of banks and things, but I didn't do them, and so just said no, I know what you're talking about. But they had me on this one. They had me cold, and I had the pistol that I'd taken off the bank manager up in Sydney, so I had that. So they had me for that too up later on. So that was I went to jail, and they funny enough they put me in a cell. First of all, they put me in a cell with this young guy who was crying, and a really good-looking young guy. He's about 18. And they said, we want you to keep an eye on him. I said, I'm depressed. I've just been crying. I said, I would rather be in a cell. I said, no, we want you to keep an eye on this guy. So I'm not keeping an eye on him. So, I was, fuck it out. But when I went in there, I felt sorry for him. He's crying. And I said, what's wrong? And he said, they reckon I murdered this old lady. I said, well, what happened? He said, I got drunk. And he said, I don't remember. They reckon I strangled her and I've left hairs on the pillow. So, it's just whether he did it or not. I think he did do it. He finished up getting 50 years. So, yeah, he did it. And I remember he used to walk up and down in remand yard at Pentridge, and he come in crying again one day, and so he said, my girl come out, and he said she doesn't think she can wait for me, And he said, I told her if she leaves me, I'm going to hang myself, Yeah, guys do that. You can't blackmail, someone to say, like, if he was going under, he was going to get at least 20 years. So, he finished up turning gay, and that guy, and he did, I think he did about 30 years. David was his name. Jeez. So, anyway, they left me there a few days, questioned me and whatnot, and then I was looking around for an escape already because I knew that I was probably going to have a go at it.
In Pentridge at this stage?
Yeah, no, I was in the Flinders Street, not Flinders Street, Russell Street police station. But they escorted me, and you're supposed to go in a van with a lot of other criminals, but they didn't. They put me in a special little van with a red-headed guy, and they followed it. So I knew he was security and I was security. So we were handcuffed together. And I was trying to talk to him, but he wouldn't talk. So we get off. We get into Pentridge. I heard a lot about Pentridge, but I'd never been there. And we get off, and they came over and they unhandcuffed us and said, who's Ryrie? And I said, well, I'm Killick. They said, will you come with us, Killick? And I started walking away with them. Next thing I heard all this screaming, I looked around this red-headed guy. Some of these crims, tough-looking crims, they were smashing him and kicking him and belting him, and he was screaming out, and they were really giving it to him. And I looked, they said, you didn't see anything, Killick. Just walk with us. I found out later, this Ryrie, he'd murdered and raped a 6-year-old girl and a 15-year-old girl. Oh. And that was
he deserved it then.
The reception. Yeah, they let the crims do it. They let the crims do it.
Good.
But I'm going to say this, and most people disagree with me, but I don't think that you can't allow jail authorities to do these things, because once you allow them to take violence, illegal violence, and apply illegal violence when they think it's right, then you never know who they're going to apply it to and when they're going to do it, and it's got to be stopped.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's got to be stopped because you can't allow them to do it because they aren't the judges and the jury. They're not. This guy sentenced, he's going to get 50 years. And we all hate him. And, I personally would be capable of killing the guy myself. When you think a 6-year-old girl and a 15-year-old, but it's the principle of what's involved here, that you cannot allow these people run the jails to decide when violence should be applied and when it shouldn't be. It's not their call. They do it too often and they still do it. And, and it could be anybody. If they don't like you, you can be the next one that they do it.
That's fair comment. Fair comment.
Yeah, it is. As much as secretly, I was happy to see what happened, but I still against it on principle.
Yeah. Just so I've got, before we go into the talking about Pentridge, and then we'll get to the Silverwater. If it's all right, I just want to read an excerpt from your book, right? about the conditions and then we'll talk about the conditions you were locked up with. So it says, the more I jogged and walked up and down, the more the gnawing hunger increased. By the end of the day, all I could think about was getting a half a loaf of bread. If the authorities thought that this was a way to rehabilitate young men, they were way off the mark. All this did was harden my spirit. If you're looking forward towards half a loaf of bread and water, you're in some pretty fucking harsh conditions.
Yeah, but that was punishment. I think that was when I got into a fight, wasn't it? I got into a fight. I did a couple of those. They call it the pound. And what they do, they take you and put you in this cell that's totally black and you can't see anything. And in those days, you used to lose remission as well. For every day you did, you'd lose, I think it's a couple of days of remission, and plus you'd spend a couple of weeks down the yard. So that's where I met Nettie Smith in 1963 doing that stuff. But he was only 18 at the time. But the thing is, that was the punishment. And it's really, I testified at the Royal Commission in 1972 at Penridge and mentioned about this system. Now, I got into trouble when I went back to Sydney. I got into trouble over it. They tried to get me to change they brought someone from the Telegraph there and had a priest there as a witness. And I refused to go back on what I said because it was true. You can't make that sort of stuff up. It happens. You're on starvation rations and you're in a dark cell. You've got nothing to do. And if you're claustrophobic, it's really bad. And you wait when they finally come in and give you a blanket, you can go to bed on a mattress, a strip of rubber actually, and you get that half a loaf of bread and some water. You just wolf it down because that's it. And it used to be if you did 7 days, it'd be 3 days of bread and water, then 3 days on a meal, and then go back to bread and water. It depends how long you did. So they were harsh. That's the old English system of punishment that we used. You know, we're more Americanised now in what we do. Pain. To me, they work on. There's no doubt they just work on psychological torture now. Putting people for long periods of time in segregation and segregating from everybody. It's not the way to rehabilitate people. You're just going to make it worse. You're going to have all that time to think and get angry and just there's be no remorse whatsoever. It's just it's sensory deprivation, and sensory deprivation is one of the worst punishments anybody can. We all need that touch, the sense of touch, and to be able to associate with other people. And if we can't do that, then psychologically we start to deteriorate. Anyway, down in Melbourne, what happened is that I decided I was going to get out. I was going to escape. And the bands used to go, in those days, big band would take us all to court, all the different country courts, suburban courts. And you'd just be in the back of the van, unhandcuffed, and they'd open the door, a few cops would be standing there, Smith, get out, and get out. So I bribed this cook to give me some pepper, and I thought, when they get there, as soon as that door was open, I'm flying out, throwing the pepper at them away because I backed myself. They just wouldn't catch me. I was really a good runner in those days, and they just wouldn't get. And so I bribed the guy, but this guy was, when you talk about intelligence, he's probably about a 3.5. So he wasn't a real bright spark. So he's got the pepper, and they caught him with the pepper. I don't know how they caught him with the pepper. And so he's told them that it's for me. And they said, well, what's he want it for? They said, well, he's going to jump out of the van and throw it at the police officer.
Oh, give you up.
So they got me and they put me in this segro cell. And they used to come and throw water on me every morning about 5. Come on, wake up and throw cold water all over me. And when I went to court, they had a little dog box on the side of the van. They used to put buggies in it. And they shoved me in that, and I couldn't move. And if you're claustrophobic, and I was a little bit claustrophobic, just you couldn't move, and it was just horrific. And that's how I used to go to court, handcuffed. So I thought, bugger, I'm still going to escape. So I decided I'll escape. When you go into court, it's court protocol to take the handcuffs off. Now, I'd got away once before at court, and that was 6 years earlier, and I had 2 cops. Well, this time I had 2 screws, but they had me handcuffed, but they took the handcuffs off to go into court because the judge didn't want handcuffed prisoners in there. So I went in there, and the judge got up, and he's going on and on and on, and I really wasn't much interest, because I'm going to have a go at escaping. So I wasn't worried. And he gave me 7 years, and he said, "You think yourself lucky." He said, "It could be more." And I said, "Thank you, Your Honour, thank you." And we get out, and as soon as we get out, and it was a fairly light sentence, and I think. And one of the screws opened up, he's starting to put the handcuffs back on me. He said, "You should think yourself lucky. You should have thanked the judge." I said, "I did thank the judge." He said, "Yeah," but he said, "You could have thanked him and made a little speech." That's what he said to me, this guy, And I went, whack. He struck me. And he, you shouldn't be laughing about it, but with your head up, you know what you're going to do. And he's gone down. He's gone down. He's lost all his wind. And I dived towards the door, but it was closed. And I had to stop and open the door. Well, as I did it, I pushed the other guy away, a younger guy, and I got down, I got out, and I'm running down the steps, and he's tackling me from the top of the steps. Now, it defies logic. If I was in Sydney, I'd expect it, maybe he plays rugby. But they're AFL, they don't tackle down there. So I've come up with the one guy that can tackle, and he's tackling me from the top of the steps, and we're rolling around the grass, and I'm kicking him, whacking him, and he's screaming out like anything. I nearly got away, and then the cavalry's arrived, all the cops arrived. Well, they really give it to me. They give me a shocking bashing. And and then the cops come, their car broke down because they were going to get up and put a word in for me for court because I pleaded guilty. And I was just happy they didn't come because I would have had 2 screws and the cops, but their car broke down. He's come in, he said, "Geez, John," he said, "you nearly made it." I said, "Yeah, well, I didn't. But I got your chocolate." I said, "Stick your chocolate." I said, "I'm going to H Division. You know that?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I know." He said, "Look," he said, "it'll be tough for a couple of weeks." He said, "When you put yourself in this position." I said, "Yeah, I know." But I was bleeding, I was bashed. I said, "Look, I'm being bashed." He said, "John," he said, "we all knew you were going to have a go." He said, "That's why when the car broke down," he said, "we were really worried." I said, "Why didn't you ring and tell him?" He said, "Well, we didn't do it." He was a decent cop. I think he was half hoping I'd get away, this cop. I really do, He's just a cop that I got on wall with. But he was a cop and I was a robber. And anyway, because they were trying to put a lot of other jobs on me. He stopped them. He said, "No, look, he didn't do them." And I was able to prove I was in Sydney when some of this shit went down that they were talking about. So they sent me to H Division. Now, this is important because H Division was a place like Grafton. You would have heard about Grafton in New South Wales. Well, this was the same. Their policy was as soon as you get there, you get bashed, strip off, and they bash you. They bash you in your unconscious. That's what they do. And I knew that's what happened, But I'd already been battered by the cops. So I was stiff and sore anyway. And we're going there, and we get there, and they march you down. You go right down this pathway. There's a mirror there, and you can see the chief can see from his office when you're coming in. And we get there, and the two screws that escorted me down there, they went away. They handed me over the others. They're all bloody giants, and they said strip off. Stripped off. Next minute, I argued about something, and I got a baton across the back of the head, and I went down and started to get up, and then they just got into me, just give me a shock, and I bit through my lip, so I wouldn't scream out, because that's what they do at half, and they listen to see if the receptionists sing out, and so I didn't scream out. I was fighting through my lip. I still got the scar there.
So the other prisoners are listening to see if you're staunch or not.
Well, they did at Grafton, so I would have expected it to be the same at H. You're a little bit further away at H. No, you're not really. I haven't been to Grafton. What I've been told about it, they're pretty much the same. But yeah, some people, we hear them screaming out down at H. You hear them screaming out like pigs. They're just copping it. And anyway, I didn't get a bad bashing. It was bad, but it didn't go for a long time. You know what I mean? Because they knew I'd already been flogged at the police station. So anyway, then they put me in a cell, and they said, look, that it was precision made, the bedding and the blankets and all that, just like in the army. They threw it all in the air, and they said it's got to be like that in the morning, or the way it was, we get bashed again. And you had, the cell, you had a dish there. It had to be clean, you see your face in it. You had to march everywhere. If you didn't hold the salute correct, you get hit batting across the whack back or something. And it was run on terror. And so, a lot of people tried to kill themselves. Some people did. It was just a horrific place. And what happened is that I heard outside the cell, this clerk, he was the chief, and he was a really bad bastard. And he had this kid called Poole. I'll never forget it. His name was Poole. And he was crying. And he said, there's no good crying. He said, just accept what I've told you. I've ripped the letter up, and you write to your mother again. And he said, you don't tell your mother that you don't want to talk to your mother. He said, but I'm no good, sir. I don't deserve it. And, he's going like that. He said, gosh, you're no good. That's why you're here. He said, you're no good. He said, but if your mother wants to leave you, and she probably will, she can write and tell you. You don't tell her. And he said, all right, so anyway, he hanged himself that night.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Jesus.
And I mentioned this in the Royal Commission. I tried to mention it, but they said I couldn't go back further than 1970, and that happened in 1966. I got a near photographic memory and dates and stuff like that, and I can just remember it all.
It's crazy.
And,
are you in a position at the moment? Are you? I asked Russell this as well, and Jeff. Have you given feedback to the prison system recently? Like, are you involved in any way in changing how prisoners are treated?
Well, it's funny you're saying that. My parole, I'm still on parole, and my parole finishes in September.
Oh, you're still on parole?
Yeah, over the helicopter and that. And my parole finishes in September, and it's 50 years in September since I was released from Pentridge. You wouldn't believe it. And it's 50 years since I testified at the Royal Commission, and I said it was man's inhumanity to man, and they played it up in the newspapers. Now, the fact is, all those things aligned, and then Pentridge is reopening. The people that own it have got together with the National Trust, and they're opening up H Division again, just for the visitors, and part of B Division. And they come and interviewed me. I did a 3-hour interview at Fox, and they did it there, and they're using my voice as a voiceover when they go into Pentridge, into H Division, to describe what it was like there. So I'm a guest. I'm going down there in September because I'll be allowed to. I'm off parole, and it's just how the stars align. It's 50 years since.
That's pretty cool. They're using your voice. I thought they knocked it down, Pentridge.
Well, I knocked most of it down, but there's reserved a little bit of it, and H Division, so it's open to the public, and so we're going down there. I really look forward to that. Yeah, but I've had people try to get me jobs, advising people in jail and talking to them, and the system seems to be totally against me. I think Russell had a bit more luck. He went in there. And spoke to some people recently, and I know that the assistant commissioner is behind Russell, so we may see Russell doing these things, which is good. He'll do a good job. Yeah. But they don't. They still hate me over the helicopter. They just won't. They just, even being on parole now, it happened in 1999, 23 years ago, and they still wouldn't let me go to Canberra to protest on them. I mean, that's what I'm up against. It's just unbelievable. I could not go to Canberra to play. And I paid my entry fee and everything and booked my hotel in Queanbeyan, so I didn't have to live there, but just go across the border to play. Couldn't do it.
Crazy.
But look, we're running a bit out of time. I can go till 12. Is that okay? Another half hour?
Yeah, mate. Yeah. All right, what we'll do, let's get straight into what you're most infamous for. Let's talk about. We'll jump straight ahead to Silverwater Prison. So,
Well, a little bit more about H fishing because I think it's an important part of history. Ronald Ryan was there when I was there. Is that okay?
Yeah. Oh, I do have that written here, but I mean, unless you want to do just a part one, and then we can do another one another week.
This will just take a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
I just want to let people know that when I was down there, I actually could see Ryan. They had him in an observation cell. Now he was with Walker. They escaped in December, late December 1965, over the wall. And while they were getting away, they took the gun off the screw in the tower. Walker was being chased. Ryan turned around and pointed the rifle in that direction. And at the same time, a screw on the tower pointed the rifle at Walker. Simultaneously, the shots went off. The screw fell to the ground dead. Now, Ryan was convicted of it and hanged. Forensic people got up and said that the bullet would have had, the person who fired it would have had to be 9 feet tall because it travelled at a downward angle. Now, that's a fact. That's what the forensic said. Ryan was on a flat area. The officer up top was firing down. There's a good chance he's the one that done it. He killed himself, hanged himself 2 years later, the prison officer. Anyway, Ryan was sentenced to death. He had a lot of people protesting and went right around the world. Huge publicity. A lot of people said he didn't do it, but they did hang him on the 3rd of February 1967. I was there, and it was like the jail was like a powder keg. It was absolutely like a powder keg. And, I'll never forget it. The screws were walking around in trees, and I thought, if it's ever going to go off, it'll go off. They'll burn the place to the ground before they stop it. But that didn't happen, and they hanged him. Now, that's the last execution in Australia because what happened is that there's so much controversy about it that they have stopped. So it has achieved that. And I've got to say this, that the year after they hanged him, that I was involved in a very serious escape in H Division. Not in H Division, in D Division. And we managed to overpower the prison officer. I got his gun, but we were trapped and couldn't get out of the wing. And they brought in a SWAT team. They had 16 carloads of police there, and they brought the assistant police commissioner, and the governor was there. The lights were on everywhere. They shot out all the lights. And this was a siege that I turned grey overnight just about. I'll never forget it. And they eventually, we handed ourselves in, and they took us down H Division. I spent another 4 years down H Division over that. And I was released in 1972. Now, the part I want to mention here is that the governor, it was all on loudspeaker, everybody could hear him, 1,000 prisoners could hear what was going on. And he had a reputation for keeping his word. He said that if you come down, you will not be bashed, but you'll spend the rest of your time in H Division, and you'll be sentenced by a local magistrate. So we accepted that. The local magistrate gave us an extra 18 months for what happened, and the governor would come down every day and say, "You're all right, you've been touched." No, I haven't. So they were keeping their word. They hated it. They were doing other things, and psychologically they were doing everything they could, but they couldn't bash us. So otherwise we wouldn't have survived. So a couple of weeks after it happened, it was a Friday night. Of course, the governor had gone home. They came down to my cell, opened and said, "Step out." And I thought, here it is. Here it comes, So I prepared myself for it mentally. I stepped out. They said, "Left turn." I walked up the wing. Left turn again, step in. And I went into the cell where Ryan used to be. It was an observation cell. And they keep the line on all night and watch you. And I said, "What's this about?" They said, "Officer DeBoer died at 4 o'clock this afternoon, and you bastard, will be hanged like Ryan." So I thought, shit, because I'd hit him with an iron bar. He was going to shoot me, and I hit him with an iron bar. And he didn't go down, and I finished up hitting him on the chin. Then he went down then, but when I hit him with the iron bar, he's got stitches in his head. Well, they said that he died. I thought about it, and their idea, I knew it was psychological. They're trying to get me psychological because I thought this is what kept me sane. If he'd have died, I wouldn't have a couple of shit pot screws telling me about it. I'd have the homicide squad to be down there, and they would take me away and charge me. But that didn't happen, and I knew. But sometimes there's that doubt because I had no doubt that if he did die, I'd be the next man hanged in Australia because Ryan did it during an escape attempt, and there's some doubt where we did it. Whereas I deliberately hit this guy, and it's premeditated, and I would have been hanged for sure. And when you hear about Ryan, you would have heard about me instead. So I just thought I'd bring that in, but of course it was just bullshit. And Sunday night they come in and said step out, and went back to the cell. And they said officer divorce made a remarkable recovery, and everything's all right. But I didn't tell the governor when the governor came around and asked me if everything was all right. I didn't mention it because I knew that if I did, I'd put him in a position he'd have to believe me or them. And no governor wants to be in a position where he believes a crim who's hated rather than them. So I didn't want to put him in that position. So I never mentioned it. Crazy. They got away with it.
Crazy conditions. All right, we are time poor, mate. So let's jump into it because it's the big part of the book here that I'm holding, the Last Escape. And we'll give it a plug. We'll give all the books a plug at the end. And I do have a couple little token questions at the end. But let's talk about just briefly why you were in there. And let's talk about the Silverwater prison escape in 99. And just because I'm unaware, how long did you get when they caught you? And how long since you've been out? And why are you still on parole?
Yeah, well, I was going pretty well. I'd been out when I met Lucy. I'd been out quite a while in the 90s, and I was going okay. But when I hooked up with Lucy, I won't mention that because I was married in the early 70s. And we had a son, and it was a pretty good marriage. But that got stuffed up when I got extradited, which we haven't mentioned here, to South Australia over a robbery I didn't do. And I was verbal by Roger. Yeah, I was verbal by Roger Roniston, and I won that in a High Court of Australia. Now, not many crims have convictions quashed in the High Court of Australia, but they accepted that I didn't do it. But I still did 3.5 years that I shouldn't have done. So, that marriage eventually split up, and that was the catalyst behind it. But in the 90s, I was going okay, and then I met Lucy at a party, and we got on pretty well. Her husband was abusive. He's a professor. She wanted to leave him, but he brought her to Australia where she was isolated, and they had a daughter. And she told me some of the things. We started dating. She told me some of the things that he'd done is absolutely outrageous. So we hooked up, decided to hook up. Well, he did everything he could to destroy the relationship. Rang the cops, said I'd assaulted him and all that, which I hadn't. And it just went on. But because we were in a custody battle for the daughter, and because I was my record, and of course he was professor, and the judge dead set favoured him all the time. He got away with a lot of things. He got away with putting tapes, recorders in our house and recording. He got caught 3 times doing stuff. They just give him a slap on the wrist. If it had been me, I'd have gone to jail. So, but in the end, the judge let him have access to my record. And we were going together pretty strong. Everything was going good. We had a nice house. We were renting a 2-story house at Canberra. We had custody of the daughter most of the time, but the daughter was running off. He used to get her to run off. She thought it was a game. And once she ran off, and we knew she was going to his place, but, we're always worried when she runs off somebody could grab her. And because just a kid, 9, 10-year-old kid running on her own. And so I said to Lucy, look, you cut across the paddy. She might have gone that way. We knew she was going to his place up over the highway. I said, I'll get in the car and I'll head up the highway. And So she's probably going that way. And sure enough, I got on the highway, and there I saw her on the other side starting to come up. So I pulled the car up, half on the footpath, half on the road, jumped out, ran over and grabbed her, put her over my shoulder, and she said, damn it, and I tried to put her in the car, drove her home. Nobody reported that. Now, here's a guy who's pulled up, left the motor running, grabbed the kid off the street, put him over his shoulder, put her over his shoulder, and driven off. Nobody reported. Well, Lucy was beside herself over that, so we started to try and do special deals that we'd have her on certain days and we'd have her on other days. And it just was an impossible situation because he wasn't helping. Instead of just accepting he could have her a couple of days and we'd have her for the weekend or during the week, and he wouldn't accept that. He wanted full custody. So anyway, he got hold of my the judge let him have my record to see if I was a pedophile or a drug dealer. That's fair enough. But he was told not to show anyone else. And he sent it all around Australia, every police station. He went to the local school and showed it to them. We all hired cars. He took it down and showed them. And he did everything he could. And he broke every law. He should have been jailed for doing it, but he wasn't. And up in Queensland, he struck gold. The police up there realised that there was an old warrant out for him from 1983, not reporting on parole. Can you believe it? And so they put that into effect, and the cops come around and to our place and said, John, look, you got to go back to Queensland. So they were sympathetic towards us, and so they give us said we'd come in court the next day. I think they knew we would go. So, but we lost everything. We lost the bond on the place. We lost the car. I had to get rid of that. Lost all the furniture. Couldn't work because there's a warrant out for us. So I finished up eventually robbing a bank and got away with the first one. But the second one was at Barrel, and it was a bit of a nightmare because there was an off-duty cop saw me go in. He didn't take my son. He was at the ATM. But when I ran out, he was still bloody there, talking to somebody. And as I ran out, he was just suspicious enough to see there was something wrong. So he came after me. And bank manager came after me as well. And then she put, one of the girls had put some dye, a dye bomb in the first time it ever happened to me. So the dye, red smoke started to come out of the bag as I was running. And we got down around the corner down opposite near the railway station, and I stopped, and he stopped in behind a car, and I said, look, and he threw a couple of rocks at me. I said, look, this little gun just, I didn't even know he was a cop. And the smoke coming out of the bag, and the bank manager ran away, and I fired a shot on the ground, went over his head. And I thought that'll stop him, ran off. Well, people were driving past, and they were ringing the radio station saying, look, they're making a movie down there. We don't recognise the actors, I mean, Barrel, beautiful downtown Barrel for the Richford, you just don't see these things happening, and it's one of the reasons it's hard. Anyway, eventually I got away from him, but they blocked the town off, and I got caught, got arrested, and Lucy come out and see me, and we decided that I said, look, it's over. And she said, no, I'm going to get you out. She said, Jackie got you out, I'm going to get you out. We haven't mentioned before, and I won't go into it now, but a girl that busted me out of jail up in Queensland. I think that's in the book too, isn't it? And she slipped me I went to hospital, she slipped me a replica pistol. It looked well. She drew a hole in the middle and painted it. And I had handcuffs on. I managed to hold these two screws up. They had real guns, and I was handcuffed and got away with a toy gun, and they didn't like that either. Yeah.
So how long were you sentenced to Silverwater for this robbery then?
Well, I wasn't sentenced. I was still
okay.
Remand. So you can imagine we're sitting there in a visit planning escapes, and everybody else is planning. Bobby will come out to see her Wednesday, and can you ring little Jackie on something? And we'll drop some money. We're talking about escapes, and I said, look, I've had a look, and this is almost impossible to get out of. And she said, look, we had guns. She said, I can get you out from when we go to court. We go to hospital. And I said, yeah, but I've already done that. I've already got away from hospital. And the squad knew. And they classed me extreme high risk. And I used to go to court with these iron, special security belts, and they had their special spot. And I said, no, look, they're aware that they'll be ready for us. And they were. They were ready for us. And so I arranged for this guy to buy a submachine gun. It's $2,000.
As you do.
Yeah. But the trouble is, the guy, I don't know whether he knew it or didn't know, but it didn't work. She went out and tested it in a bush. It didn't work. So we had a dud. But nobody knew that, but we had a dud. But I always felt that Corrective Services set it up because the guy that sold it to us went to a lower security after that. And I just feel it was a setup because somebody rang John Laws, a lady rang John Laws when we escaped and said that they knew we were going and we still got away. And when I went to the police station one day, they left the back door unlocked and let Lucy in to see me. And there were 12 cops out the front and none of them there keeping watching me. And I had 3 security guys that had disappeared. And all she had to do was draw the bolt back, let me out and open the back door and we were gone. And she was all for it. And I said, Lucy, they're out there waiting for us.
You reckon they wanted to knock
you? I was told by a guy nearly 10 years later. He's still alive. He was acting governor when he told me this at Nara. He said, they wanted me to kill you, don't they? And I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure I do know what you're talking about. I said, are you prepared to testify that in court if we ever go to court about it? He said, not while I'm working there. He said, when I leave. Now, he said in front of another police officer, prison officer, and about 6 crips. Now, and I know. Look, you work it out. Lucy come through the front. I said, how many cops were there? She said, about 12. I said, well, where are they? And I said, I came with a special squad, with security belt. All of a sudden, here's, to pull the bolt back. They forgot to lock the back door. Where are they? They're going to be, the hell are they? I mean, it's just, do they think we're that stupid?
Yeah.
It was a dead set setup. And when you were reading Russell's book, that something like that happened to him too, up in the Northern Territory. Yeah. Similar thing happened to him.
Yeah. Well, we better jump to this. Let's jump to the pinnacle, mate. Because I know you're time poor, so we'll get through, and then we'll let the listeners be hanging because they can buy the book and get the full story. But just give us. Let's quickly get to the helicopter, mate.
All right, so we decided we're going to get out, but how the hell are we going to get out? And I went to court on a traffic matter to Queanbeyan, which Lucy turned up. She had the gun with her. She came out to visit me in a little box. And she showed me, look, I got this. When we go into court, I'll bust you out. I said, she just had so much going on. I said, where are we going to go? I said, you came here by train, so we haven't got a car. I said, you got a little Derringer. I said, the cops got big guns. I said, and there's about 50 of them in this town to us, and I won't have any. We can't do it. And we're just lucky. She was prepared to do it. Just hold them up in court saying, come on, let's go. And we'd have got as far as the front street, and they'd have shot us down, for sure. So, that's how much go she had in her. So I said to her on a visit, I said, look, I figured out a way out. I said, you're going to have to hijack a helicopter. She said, great. Great. You think a lot of girls would say, let's just a bit much.
Man, I've never had a woman love me like that, mate.
Well, that's what the cops said to me. We can't even get her to drive us down this railway station, But these things happen. There are girls like Lucy around, and she and I had been through a lot. And so anyway, I said, but it's going to be hard to do it. So you got to take a trial run. And so she did. But before she did the trial run, we didn't know enough about helicopters. I used to see them where we were. They'd come over 10, 15 a day. I'd see them come over. And I realised they were coming over because the Olympic Stadium was next door and we had the Olympics coming on the following year and they were getting ready for it and all the sightseers were coming. So I watched the screws and in a normal jail, they would look and they saw a helicopter and they'd all be alert. They'd be ready. You know, it's a helicopter. Every crew is trying to get out of the But here, at Silverwater, after you've seen hundreds and hundreds, you just don't take any notice. So they were pretty blasé about it. I thought, if it's quick, chopper can come in, grab you, and you're away. So, but we didn't know about helicopters. So I was thinking, how the hell are we going to learn about it? And then that's when I know it's fate. That's when I know fate stepped in. They got this guy, a helicopter pilot, 10,000 hours experience. He was a con man. They extradited him from Scotland over to Sydney. Now, Corrective Services did the right thing. They put him in my wing because there were about 18 wings. So Corrective Service put him in my wing, and I've always thanked them for that. And, you know, that's why they really hate me over that. You know, they said it embarrassed them, all this stuff. But they put him in my wing, and then I asked an officer, could I have him in my cell, and they put him in my cell. So, you know, it worked out. Due to Corrective Services allowing this stuff, I had a real helicopter pilot in myself to try and make a break out in a helicopter. And this one, they won't give me a job teaching other people. You know, against me. Or they should get over. They said it embarrassed them, but nobody got embarrassed. It's just one of those things that happened. It was always going to happen. It was always going to happen. Somebody was going to do it one day. So he taught me just everything there was to know about it. He had books on it. I saw a thing about a transponder. What's that? He told me what it is. I told Lucy what that was. Silent alarm through the authorities. So we were prepared, really. Now, he said he was a con man. He was going to bust me out. He was going to come in and bust me out, and Lucy's going to give him 10,000. So we were putting a bit of money in his property and that, and stringing him along, and he was stringing us. It was just sort of a battle of wills. So, you know, a battle of him trying to con me, and I'm stringing him along. So the day of the escape, she did a trial run. She said it could be done. So the day of the escape, I brought him out the oval with me in case if they did land, the chopper pilot jumped out, which I was thinking if I was hijacked at the land, I'd land and jump out and run, you know. So I thought if they do that, I've got my own bloody pilot. I can take him, and he would have come. Yeah. So, but you've got to be sure I'm going to be there. We only got out in the oval twice a week, just for an hour, and sometimes they're short on staff, so they don't take you, or there's a fight or something like that. But that didn't happen, and I rang Lucy, and she was near the airport, and I said, look, I'm going out for a run. I'll call you when I get back. She said, okay. Well, she knew. So she went ahead with a chopper. The one she had ordered, there was something wrong with a bigger one. They couldn't come and they were late. They got a smaller one. So if anybody else had jumped on that chopper, they would have brought it down. And it was just sheer luck, every lot of luck involved. I do admit that. And just all the stars aligned for it. And she came over. Probably about 12 choppers came over. And I was walking up and down. Each one that came, the sweat was fine. Bennett was walking with me. By then he was sus. He said, well, you keep looking up. He said, you're up to something. I said, I'm up to nothing. I said, when you get out, I'll just what I'm doing, look and wait for you to come. And so he said, yeah, okay. And it was about 8 minutes to go, and I thought, she's late. I knew she'd do it. She's going to get here, and I'm not here. There's going to be a new team of guys. And what the hell? You know, it'd be the worst stand-up date in history. What the hell am I going to do? Yeah. Can you imagine? You've hijacked a helicopter and get a guy and he's not there. You know?
Oh, shit.
I thought, well, they were going to take us out. And I thought, I'll fall to the ground so I'm having a heart attack. I'm an old guy, you know. And they can't carry it. They've got to get the nurses. It takes up to 10 minutes. So I thought I could maybe gain 10 minutes like that. But it didn't happen. Then I soon had come. And I knew it was it because came down. Instead of coming just straight down like Bennett said it would, jumped straight in and out, he came around like that. And it was deliberately doing it to attract attention. It's crazy. But he didn't think they'd shoot us because, and I didn't think they'd shoot us either because the Geneva Convention prevents people firing shots. You're not allowed to do it.
So just to clear this up, Lucy's hijacked this helicopter, hijacked the pilot.
Yeah, she's gone in and pulled the small gun that we had. It was called an assassin's gun. You can put it in your hand. It's a double barrel 22, very small pistol. She pulled that on him, but he thought it was a toy. And he said later he was going to knock that out of her hand, but she realised, first of all, he went for the transponder, which is the alarm. She knocked his hand away and pulled out. She knew about that. She pulled that out. Then she took his headphones off. And so then he thought, I'll knock this out of her hand, this little bloody toy she got. And then she pulled the machine. She knew she pulled the submachine gun out. Now, that didn't work, but he didn't know that.
Nice.
That didn't. As soon as he did that, he lost all interest in trying to power. He did what? And she said, there he is. And so he came in, but as I said, he came around like that instead of going straight down. And by doing that, one of the screws ran over, grabbed a rifle, she's not supposed to, and let off 3 shots. Because I ran towards the chopper, and Bennett said, you bastard, he realised what was going on, and then he sang out good luck. And then I saw one of the prison officers from the gym, very fit guy, running towards us, and he was a danger. He was running pretty fast. There were another 5 up. They were standing together. Instead of spreading out, they were standing together. And that was their mistake. They probably should have spread out. So nobody got to me. I got to the chopper, jumped up, and sat on the side, and she handed me the submachine gun, and I went like that. They all threw themselves to the ground. The Crims were playing football. Everybody threw themselves. They thought I was firing at them. And then I just got inside, and I heard, fuck, fuck, fuck. We got hit 3 times by the tower. Now, then they grabbed the gun off him because he's not supposed to do it. Well, one of those bullets missed the civilian cable by about a centimetre. If it hadn't hit that, it would have brought us down. And a lot of people would have been killed. That's one of the reasons I got a big sentence, because of the danger involved.
Yeah.
So we got away.
It's crazy. I was just going to say, I was speaking to Jeff, and he said, he was on the phone before you, and he said the way he said it was quite cinematic that you took your jumper off and you just threw it behind, like, fuck this place, and jumped into the chopper. And he said it was like a movie, man. He's like, what the fuck? There's a helicopter here and there's guns going off. He's like, what's going on here?
Yeah, Jeff Warren.
Yeah.
Jeff. Yeah. Yeah. Well, he was there. He was there. Yeah. And look, we've spoken about that. Well, you just don't expect these things to happen, but it was always going to happen one day. We were lucky to get away with it. All the stars aligned for us. Sheer luck, really, that it happened. But we got but it was a slow helicopter, and he was deliberately going too high, trying to attract attention. Did everything he could for it to come undone, which was stupid, really, because he looks back now. I think he realised he probably shouldn't have done that, but he didn't know if we were going to kill him. You just don't know when people are doing these things. Somebody over in France did it, and they shot the helicopter pilot. So he didn't know. But we were going pretty slow, and it got out, and what had happened on the news and that, and people were ringing John Laws and saying, it's just coming over now, it's coming over my house. And he was giving them bottles of wine, so wild turkey. And so when we arrived, she had forgotten the keys to the car, so we didn't have a vehicle. And that was a bit of a problem. And when we touched down in this oval, near this oval where we had to, we didn't have a getaway vehicle. And when we got out, this guy rang John Laws and said, they've just landed. And he told them exactly where we were. But the cops didn't hear that. Now, Laws said, give him 2 bottles of wild turkey and 2 other bottles of something else, because this is great news. Well, if he'd have rang the cops said later, we'd have got him. But he rang John Laws to get the wine, see? And when they said, "Lay, why didn't you ring the cops?" He said, "Well, they wouldn't have given me the bloody wine, would they?" And they would have. So we're lucky there again. If he'd have rang the cops, would have got away. I wouldn't have got away. But so that's it. I commandeered a car. I had to pull out and said to the guy, "Look, I need to get out," and got in the car with him, and we drove. I deliberately drove to where I lived in that suburb because I said to Lucy, "What we've got to do is let them think I've gone home." That's what a lot of people do when they escape. They go to where they live, and I said, if they think we're at home, they'll shut down the suburb and it gives us a chance to get out. That's exactly what happened. And we got away on a train. But got away on a train, and we were pretty lucky there. Plus, when I let the guy out of the car, I said, "Look, I'll park it a couple of miles away." He got out. The cops came by 10 seconds later. He flagged them down and told them, now, if they'd have gone straight after, they might have got us. But they were that worried about him, they stayed with him.
Right.
And so luck was on our side there too.
So how long were you on the run for then?
We were on the run for about 7 weeks, and it was impossible. I had it worked out to get a passport. This guy could supply, but his wife, when I rang, she said, "John, they're on. They got us bugged." So they knew that contact was gone. In fact, every contact I had, they had them covered. They really went into it. I give them credit for what they did. They covered everybody I'd ever known in the last 7 years or something, and we were totally on our own, which made it almost impossible. We're on the news so many times. I mean, 300 times they can get reports, and it's wrong, but they only need that one thing in 100.
Yeah.
300. So you can win 299 of them, and they win one, and you're gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mate, I know you got to get out of here at 12, so listeners, you're going to have to buy the book.
Do another 10 minutes if you like. I can do another 10 minutes.
All right, keep going then. Yep.
Let's tidy it up because, look, the thing is, we got arrested at the caravan at Bass Hill. A guy took us up there, and I was supposed to get some money from this guy who owed me money, but he lost it gambling. You wouldn't believe it, would you? So he didn't turn up. I couldn't pay the guy to take us up there. He went to the cops and told them about us, and he described what we looked like. We didn't know that. We didn't think he would go to the cops, and so where we were staying, we were going bush. We bought a tent there, and we were going bush for a while, and the guy where we booked in, he recognised Channel 9 put something on 8. We didn't see it, and describing Lucy. And he rang up and said, "I think they're here." So they virtually surrounded the suburb and shut us down and come out. And there's one funny little thing happened. They put all the spotlights on and demanded we come out with our hands in the head. And a little kid came out, about 10-year-old, and was here. Yes, he said, I mean, his parents must have heard come out of their hands and he stepped out. He's the first guy they saw.
Pull a little bug out.
Yeah. He'll never forget that, will he? So what happened is that Lucy pleaded not guilty, but she lost the trial. They gave me 28 years. I got knocked down to 23 and a half, but I'm still on parole for another couple of months. And Lucy got 10. She did 7. Condition to our parole, we're never allowed to speak or see each other, and that still exists for another 2 months. But the relationship, so we wrote about 4,000 letters to each other. They stole 1,000 letters off us. She cracked up over that.
Would you ever publish those letters? Would you ever publish those letters?
I've published one, part of it, and I've quoted it in a book. But my idea is to give the letters to the state library when we're gone. Yeah. That's not going to sell them. I want to give them away. I'd like them. I think they'll be part of our history eventually. Not so much now, but you look back in history, it's people that have been criminals, well-known criminals, and anything they can get like that is part of history. I mean, a letter Billy wrote, it's a very famous letter. And we've got thousands of letters and people can go through those letters at the library and maybe put books together and movies together and documentaries or anything like that once they see really what we had to say over a period of 7 years,
Crazy. Ned, I just want to say that you said Ned Kelly there. It dropped out a little bit. All right, mate. So, like I said, people are going to have to go and buy the book now. I'm very aware of your time. So, and there is talks of a movie, and you're pretty interested in having me act in it. Is that right?
Well, we're doing a documentary. We haven't quite finished it. They're going to cut it down to half an hour and send it to the studios, and hopefully we'll get it going there. Finding a part for you. You said you're prepared to do it for free, and I think that's a big incentive when you've got a low budget movie. So, now I've met you, you never know.
I got the look for it.
Yeah, you can't be a cop. You're going to have to be a criminal with those tattoos. Can I just say this? Buy the book or any other books. If you go into johnrkillick.com, that's my website, johnrkillick.com, and you get all the information there.
Yeah. Don't buy them off Amazon. Let the money go straight to John. As he said, he's doing good shit with the money. He's helping people out. I will let you go, John. I've got 2 more questions. You can answer them.
Yeah.
The first one's real brief, which is just something that really interests me with people who've done a lot of time. And then I've got a token question that I ask every guest, and that sometimes is the title of the podcast. But what I do want to know is, do you still have dreams about being in prison?
Very rarely now, maybe now and again, yeah. But nothing. I know Russell has nightmares still about what happened to him, and what happened to him is just 10 times worse than what happened to me. But no, I got to admit, I've been out a long time, and I don't have much nightmares about it. I've always said, and I say it now, and I mean it, that I've never really been bitter about what happened to me, because you can't run in robbing banks, escaping in helicopters, and not go to jail. I think there's a lot of people in jail that shouldn't be there. I think jail's not a good place to send people. A lot of people could be doing community work, getting out there, doing things, helping. But if you're a bank robber, armed robber, or a major drug seller, you should go to jail, and that's it. So I'm not dirty on that. I've done 30 years in jail. I would like to think that I'm doing a lot of good things now. I've done some bad things. I'm doing good things now, and I reckon I've broken about even. I'd be happy with that when I died, have it on a tombstone. He broke even. Like the gambler in Kenny Rogers song.
That's classic. All right, so last one, mate. If you could write a message to yourself, a very small message, and put it inside a fortune cookie and send it back to yourself when you were 16, 17 years old, what would it say and why?
Don't gamble. That's it.
I was going to touch on the gambling, but, you're a good yarner, and it's, 2 hours has gone already. Don't gamble.
If I gamble, I'd be a millionaire, really. Yeah. That's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't have gone to jail. But, my father told me, and he wasn't a very wise man, because he didn't teach much else, because he used to drink and do all the stuff. But he did say gambling's for mugs. And, I will say this, I won't take it that far. Because there are a few smart gamblers out there who are making a living at it. But it's a career to them, and they've got every advantage these days with all the stuff you've got on computers and that. They've got everything. But the average guy who gambles goes down there. I was in a club last night. We went to dinner, and I met a guy, a really nice guy. He's got nothing because he gambles on the pokies, and he gambles on the horse. And he's a guy who's worked all his life, got nothing. So don't gamble.
Crazy.
That's really it.
We'll finish up. I just wanted to know, do you know there's a song written about you by an Australian rapper?
Yeah, he's pretty good. I didn't like it at first, but I played it a few times, and it's more about Lucy. I think it's pretty good. I think he's a talented guy, and I do like that song. Yeah, we should have played it.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I know him. I'm gonna slot it in. I might slot it in after this, just as we finish up. All right, John. Look, mate. I can't thank you enough for your time. Your story. I'm thumping through the book, man. It's a real page turner. I really urge people to go out and buy it. Also, I wouldn't mind getting a copy of the other one, the red one. Is that from the inside?
Yeah, I got it though. I haven't got it. You can get it. I've got a 7-hour audio. You can get it if you go into that my website, johnrkillick.com. You can go in there and get it straight away. Just hit a button and you can get the Audible one. I just can't get any more of these at the moment on the inside. I just can't get them, but except on audio.
Okay. Who did the audio for it? Who did the voiceover?
There's a lady with a great voice. She's better than me. We both tried out, and she's better than me at telling my story. It's more about 30 other different crims. Nettie Smith, they're all in there. Billy Monday. So, and a lot that you haven't even heard of, but there's entertaining and some funny stories, some sad stories. It's a pretty good book, actually, this one.
Yeah.
On the inside.
Yeah. Well, look, mate, I'm going to end on this. I'm going to say you got balls of steel and you literally cannot be held down, man. And you are a part of Australian history. I'm a big fan of Australian crime, and you are a part of history. I hope you're around for a lot longer to keep doing the good work you do and write more books and get this movie out, because it's an amazing story that needs to be told. And I cannot thank you enough for your time. I really appreciate you providing me this time, and I hope to keep in touch.
Thank you, and I really enjoyed it. And I think you're a good interviewer, and I wish you all the success. And maybe we'll do another one down the track. We'll see how it goes. But look, I got to say this before I go that when you're saying you hope I live a long life, I'm worried about getting to 90. I'm worried, because this fool of a reporter came out to interview me, and she came out and said she wanted to publicise the book, The Last Escape. She didn't do that, and she didn't record anything. She said she did it all by shorthand, and she just misquoted me. And she got up and said that, and I don't know why she said it, but that when I'm 90, I'm going to come back and rob a bank. Now, they put that in the paper. Oh, got real serious. They put an extra 3 years reporting on me over that, and I didn't say it. I really got pissed off about it, and I mentioned in the book. So, I'm worried that if I get to 89, the cops might start watching me again. Don't believe that.
Oh, mate, you're a legend. What I'm going to do, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to stop recording, and then just give me 2 minutes to talk to you about something else before we go. But I don't want to talk about it on air. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. John Killick. Thank you so much for coming on, mate. I really appreciate your time.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
His charms came and took me by surprise. The intensity of my love and I ain't denying it. We're fenced off, but it's not goodbye. There's no wall they could put between us, that's too high. I've never known a rush like that. Dragged my whole heart into this plan he hatched. And though he's a career grim, I wanna be near him. I don't fear a thing when he calls and he sings and he says,
got no one else to turn to, and I really don't wanna burn you. But you're all I have, will you set me free? Got no one else to turn to, he's so full he don't deserve me. But you're all I have, you can set me free. Baby, rescue me.
tossed him out the prison bars. You could fly a chopper straight into the yard. Before you know it, it could be like we not being apart. And I believed him, but it's hard cause I'm scared and I'm scarred. All of those locks and those guards and that barbed wire, none of it could stop our escape. I hugged him till I hurt and the tears weighed heavy on my tired eyes. Then broke and fell free, Jesus Christ, the plan worked and they shot at us all the while inmates cheered on. Little fragments of reality, no match for my adrenaline. And when it all may have erupted, he said, fear not. I felt safe like everything else around me was irrelevant. Tightly your hands grip the steering wheel. Tune into the news, your eyes glued to the road. And I realize the fear that I'm feeling is real. Cause I don't know how to run, you don't know where to go.
Got no one else to turn to, and I really don't wanna burn. But you're all I have, will you set me free? Baby, let's got no one else to turn to. He's so fool he don't deserve. But you're all I have, you can set me free. Baby, rescue me. Baby, rescue me. Baby, rescue me. Baby, rescue me. And it feels so good to have got you back in my arms, but we don't have time to fuck around. No time to fuck around. And it feels so good to have got you back in my arms, but we don't have time to fuck around. No time to